Hey everybody, Sam Marks. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of FJC, a foundation of philanthropic funds. I'm in my fifth year here. We are primarily a sponsor of donor-advised funds. We also fiscally sponsor 160 or so organizations. But we also act as a financial intermediary that helps imaginative donors make impact investments with capital in their DAF accounts. I've been a nonprofit guy, sometimes a grant seeker, sometimes a grant maker, working at the intersection of the nonprofit sector and finance. In my 30-year career, I've worked in youth development, affordable housing development. I worked at a bank doing impact investing at a CDFI before coming to FJC. So I'd say it's about 1/3 career in philanthropy, 2/3 as a practitioner. I was really honored to have my abstract accepted by the Foundation Review. Having the article peer-reviewed and published is very validating. It really underscores that we're onto something. FJC has been working at the intersection of donor-advised funds and impact investing for nearly 30 years. And when I started as CEO in 2019, it was clear that there was really cool stuff going on here, but it was a bit of a best-kept secret. And so, it was time to export our practices, inspire others to invest the funds in their DAF accounts in ways that support nonprofits. And a lot of it's been about trying to sort of change attitudes and values, let people know what's possible, shift minds, and that means providing thought leadership. So, most foundation investment committees have really conservative approaches to investing. They invest for market returns, they grow their endowment, and give more money away the next year. But what if funds at foundations could be invested to advance mission work and to help nonprofits advance their missions? So it's been really exciting to see that there's an audience out there that wants to dig into this, do some deep dive, look at some case studies. So I really appreciate Foundation Review. There's a tendency, I think, for foundations to think kind of transactionally, but for us to step back and think big picture, see patterns, really important. So it's still early days for our article. It's only been available for several months or so. So I think the causal relationships of change in the world may even be beyond the powers of some of the folks on this call who are experts on that. But I can say that we've had a lot of inbound interest about building on some of the case studies that we wrote about in the piece. We had a foundation come to us with $1 million and open a donor-advised fund to capitalize a low-interest revolving loan fund for one of their favorite youth-serving organizations in New York City. And then a corporate foundation is preparing to make $1 million loan to FJC so we can on-lend it to a series of affordable housing developers who would then match fund with some donor capital. And then a couple of our nonprofit borrowers who've borrowed from FJC at a market rate of interest are interested in working with us to create a pooled fund that would serve their whole sector of legal defender organizations at a below market rate of interest. So we are seeing these kind of like green shoots of like practitioners and people who are thinking about this stuff. I think, I do worry sometimes that we're kind of like preaching to the choir to some degree, because the folks who I'd really like to be reading this article are investment committees of foundations and, folks who work on Wall Street and people who have access to way more resources, who might think more creatively about them if they knew what was possible. But one of the kind of interesting lanes I'm trying to open is around working with nonprofit boards that may have some resources around the table and may have some financial sophistication in terms of how they think about money. But if we could, instead of like centering, like what is the donor preference for how philanthropic resources can be put to work, if we could center like what do the nonprofits need, what are their gaps in their business models, and how could nonprofits benefit from building up their balance sheets, not just having grants that help them, operate in the black for the year, but open up, a line of communication about balance sheet, equity-like investments in nonprofits that have a longer-term horizon and are building up the financial capacity of the organization, not just funding a program or funding for their annual P&L. So those are the kinds of conversations I'm hoping that this article can help advance.